Hi everyone, welcome to the 38th episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host Ryan Zayaks, and today I'm joined by lawyer Gianna Strauzella.
Future lawyer.
Future lawyer. See, I like to introduce people based on what they're studying in school because that's what they're gonna be.
No,
So
I like it.
Kind of manifest things, so to speak. And I also like to shout out my first time TD episode 1 guest Jeff Fish for stepping in to help. Thank you, Jeff. Also, the co-host of the Fish and Rod podcast, which you can also find the same platforms you could find the Zicast. So, Gianna, you said you watched a couple episodes, so you kind of have a bit of a clue as to what I do here. I interview my friends, I get to know them better. I'm very interested as to what you're doing, so how about you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Gianna. I'm from Old Bridge, New Jersey. I'm in the advanced dual degree 3+3 BA JD program here at Quinnipiac. Yes, that's a mouthful. So I'm actually in my first year of law school now at Quinnipiac. In undergrad, I did a lot of things. I was in the university's honors program. I was in Alpha Delta Pi sorority, and I did graduate from that sorority, so I finished my membership with them. And then what I still do is I've been working at Quinnipiac's Intramurals for the last 4 years now. That's kind of crazy. Started as a referee there, and now I've been a supervisor the last 3 years. And then for the last 3 years, I've been a peer tutor for Quinnipiac at the Learning Commons. And the last 3 years, I've also been on the Academic Integrity Board here. I have a board position. And then most recently, I got initiated last April as the Sweetheart for Alpha Sigma Phi fraternity here. So that's been a lot of fun. And actually, the most important thing I probably do that I forgot is for the last 3 years, I've been working as a law clerk in New Haven at Delia Galili de Palma. So I think I covered it.
Wow, that's quite the resume. That's quite the resume. Tell me about that Sweetheart for the fraternity.
Yeah.
What exactly is that?
Yeah, so I'll preface with, Greek life at every school is super different. So, and even every frat at Quinnipiac does it very differently. But the way that I'm going to call them ASIG, that's their abbreviation, that ASIG does it is every year they get a new Sweetheart. So all the brothers get to nominate different women at Quinnipiac. They don't necessarily have to be in Greek life, but they commonly are. And then all of us got interviewed. There was an interview process, and then the brothers vote on who they want to be Sweetheart, and then I got initiated, and then my term is April to April. And basically what that entails, I feel like people have a lot of misconceptions about it. It's just someone who's been involved with a fraternity, goes to their events, supports them, things like that. Somehow, some way, when I look back on my life at Quinnipiac, the ASIG guys have kind of always been around me. I worked with a bunch of them my freshman year in Intramurals and still do to this day. And I think the funniest part of it is that their current president, he's a twin who also holds a position in the fraternity. We all went to grammar school together. And I didn't even know they were coming to Quinnipiac, let alone joined Alpha Sig. And then, so his name is Brian, who's the president of the fraternity. He asked me if I wanted to be nominated, and it kind of just went from there. But I go to all their events. I promote them. It's definitely just like a support thing. It's like an honorary title. I don't know. It's a lot of fun, though.
That's interesting. And you talk about intramurals as well.
Yes.
How is being an intramural referee?
So I absolutely love intramurals. I think it's really funny that I don't really have a lot of sport experience. I cheered my whole life. But I came to Quinnipiac and I was like, okay, I need a job. And as a freshman, you can't go off campus. You don't have a car. So I went on, student employment, and my two options were be Boomer, the Bobcat, which I did pass on.
Lucrative.
Or work for intramurals. So I was just like, okay, might as well submit an application and see what happens. Kind of just history, how it happened. I went, we had a job interview when I came to campus, clicked with the people who work there. And I really just fell in love with the job. It's a really fun thing that we get to do. I think it works really well for college kids because the hours are weeknights or Saturdays and Sundays. So you're able to go to class. I'm able to work I work 3 jobs. I'm able to work my other 2 jobs because of the hours of this one. And I guess I'll give a little shout out to Intramurals and what we do. So we have sports running all year long. In the fall, we do things like soccer, flag football, volleyball, pickleball, badminton, 3v3 basketball, and then I'm probably missing some. In the spring, we have full court basketball. We do volleyball again, softball, flag football again. I don't know. I feel like I'm definitely missing. I think we do we do futsal. We do like weekend tournaments. We had like a beach volleyball tournament, wiffle ball tournament, yard game tournaments. We do a lot. I think it's just like a really fun group of people, a really diverse group of people. I wouldn't have met them if I didn't work this job. And we all love intramurals. It's just like fun to kind of come after a full day of class and it's like, yeah, let's go play some volleyball, guys.
Is that your main one, refereeing volleyball? So
I've refereed every single sport, and right now I supervise, and I supervise everything. But I do think volleyball is my favorite.
Step in and play any of the intramural sports. Which one would it be?
I actually did play volleyball my freshman year. I did have a team going. I would probably say volleyball or badminton. Yeah.
Those are some 2 interesting ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm the best at volleyball. I just think it's a lot of fun, and I actually not like competitively by any means, but I played a lot of badminton as a kid. I don't know. I always thought that was fun.
It's very like gym class sport.
Yes. But like my neighborhood, I had a really good neighborhood growing up. Like all of us would just like play badminton.
Interesting. And you could have been Boomer.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't even apply because I don't think I could have taken the rejection of having not been selected as Boomer.
As Boomer, you could have been like Sweetheart Boomer. I think that would.
I think more of like what's that Disney movie like where Hatching Pete or something? That like
help us out,
he's the mascot. Did I make this up? Oh no. There's some Disney movie I feel.
You definitely didn't
like,
make it up. I'm
with,
trying to think.
The blonde kid. All right, it's okay.
We can.
There's like the point of the movie is everyone's like, oh, who's the mascot, and then it's this guy.
Interesting. Yeah, that could have been you.
Could have been.
And of course, you're involved in a million things. And I knew you from an English class where you were always very bright. And I was thinking back to like people I want on the show, and you came to mind.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'd like to ask you about like your time as an English student and how you look to apply the skills you learned there.
Yeah. So I probably should have said that in undergrad I was a law and society major, and then I was an English minor. And I think I'm going to start with my English experience at Quinnipiac. I think the kind of curriculum path I took was more of a creative writing side and less of structured writing. Like I came into college and I didn't have to take 101 or 102, which was like introduction to university writing. Like I took a like intro to creative nonfiction, intro to fiction writing, and then we took that medieval class. So like a lot of, like I said, more creative writing. So unfortunately, I don't think a lot of those skills transfer over to my legal path. Obviously, reading and writing is what you do as a lawyer, but I think it's a really big misconception that, if you're just good at English, you'll naturally transfer over into the legal field, and that's actually something that I kind of thought, which is why I picked up the minor in the first place. But legal writing is a whole different genre in itself. It's a new skill that honestly I'm in the process of learning right now. So when you think our entire English curriculum, honestly, from when we're kids through college is you read something, and then when you go to write your paper, you take what the author wrote, but then you put your own spin on it. Like it's not necessarily rewarded to quote the author throughout your entire paper. Like you have a thesis, right? And you take their theme and then you add your own thoughts to it. Legal writing is the exact opposite. There's practically no reward for being creative. It's all about citing precedent, citing other jurisdictions, prior cases. It's very technical. There's a lot of formalities. And it's very succinct. You have to be very, very brief because the judges are just not going to read your 30-page memo. If you can get out what you need to say in 3 pages, that's better. But I can't tell you how many lawyers and how many of my professors have said that they've submitted things to the court and they just watch the judge just toss it, not even look at it, but toss it. And they're like, give me the summary. So I don't think there's a direct transfer, unfortunately. But on the bright side, in the little free time that I have, I do like to creative write on my own. So I think probably the most beneficial class I took here was Intro to Creative Nonfiction with Professor Smith. And that seems to kind of be the area that I just like to write in my free time. I think it was really cool in that class. I don't know if you took it, to experiment with like the different forms. Like not only there's creativity in the exact words and story you're trying to tell, but the way that you like format it on the page and the way that your reader visually like sees it could tell like another layer of meaning. So I thought that was really interesting.
That's interesting, noting how different it is. I've been learning that too, like on the business side, how much being concise matters, because outside of like the English world, no one wants to read. So you have to shorten things and keep them precise, which very much leads us well into our next topic, which is like what it's like to study law and your pursuit in that field, because you're the first law student I've had on here.
Well, I'm honored. I think I'll start with like a fun little story. So I've like always wanted to do law somehow. I don't think people are going to believe me when I say this, but truly, like, this was my admissions essay to Quinnipiac Law, so this is true. When I was in kindergarten and it was career day, and my teacher, Mrs. Mann, she said to everyone, "Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And everyone was like, "Oh, ballerina, firefighter, president, astronaut," like all these cool things. And she was like, "Oh, Gianna, what do you want to be?" I was like, "I want to be a lawyer." I was like 5. I don't even know what that meant. I don't have any lawyers in my family. And she was just like, "Oh, okay, like why?" And I was just like, "Well, I don't know, just gonna do it." And somehow I kind of stuck with that, honestly, my whole life. There was like a brief period in the 5th grade when I wanted to be a meteorologist. But then I found out not all meteorologists are on TV. So that dream quickly died. And then I did a lot for law in high school. I was the president of the mock trial team. We were really successful with that. I had a couple of brief internships in high school, came to college, got accepted to this great program, and now here I am, and now I'm a 1L. So to answer the question of how it feels to study the law, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. It feels like a culmination for me of kind of everything I've worked for so far in my life. Like, I remember getting my acceptance letter, and my mom was like, "You've literally been working for this your whole life." And I was like, wow, that's true. Kind of crazy to think that, but yeah, I really am super grateful. It is, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of been a tough transition from undergrad to law school. I think the rigor of the curriculum and the volume of work is something that I don't think anything could prepare you for. It is pretty specific to the legal field. Not impossible, but it is a lot of dedication. But I do just kind of try to think of it as a means to an end. You know, we're going to get through it. It's only 3 years, slowly making our way through. And then once I graduate, I'll have my JD. Then I take my bar and then start my career. So then the other part of the question, I think, was like, what do I kind of want to do? Yeah. So I'm definitely open in law school to experiencing and learning about different areas of the law. Like, I definitely would love to just have like a little bit of knowledge in a lot of areas. In undergrad, I kind of tried to do that as well. I think Quinnipiac, with my major of law and society, did a really good job of offering students a sampling of the different areas of law. I definitely got a foundation of legal skills in undergrad, which I'm really grateful for, because it's made the transition just a little easier into law school. And I did take a pretty good selection of different areas of study in undergrad. So based off of that and kind of my personal life, which I can go into a little bit, I think I want to end up in the labor field right now. So where I do work right now is, like I said, Delia Gololita Palma, and they do workers' compensation and personal injury. So that's more of like employment and then like tort issues. So the distinction between like employment and then what I want to go into labor is more like the unions and like workers' rights, and that's kind of the area I'd like to end up in. My dad's actually been in a union my whole life. I think he's like pushing 30 years right now in the union, and he's actually been his union's delegate for like the last 15 years. I should say he's in the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW. Shout out Local 827. I don't know. But I actually did my senior thesis on workers' rights and like try to amend what's going on and things like that. Just the short story of it is I feel like people can have a lot of mixed opinions about unions. They've definitely been politicized a lot lately. I just try to look at it from the people perspective of unions are not just like the employees a part of it, it's their families as well. Like my dad's union has done so much for my family growing up. Like his coworkers are kind of like my aunts and my uncles. Like they would come to my cheer competitions as a kid. Like I went on strike with them as a kid. Like I was holding my little sign with them, and they would pick me up from practice, or we'd do like food drives together. We'd go to, you know, grievance hearings. Like we really are like a small family, aside from all the practical of like health insurance and vacation days and things like that. And it's just, I think everyone, truly, if you think about it, knows someone who's in a union. And unions, all they mean, like all a union truly means is collective bargaining. And like if you talk to people and you're like, oh, workers should be able to collectively bargain for their rights, most people aren't going to say that's wrong. But unfortunately, like I said, the word union has been very politicized, which is kind of where they're taking a knock. But really, like right now, unions are having a big moment. Like Apple, Chipotle, Starbucks, Trader Joe's, like they all recently unionized. Unionization levels are the highest they've been in, a long time. I forgot what the exact statistic is, but what my thesis was on is just, so where unions get their rights from is the NLRA, the National Labor Relations Act. And that hasn't been amended, I think, in over like 80 years. So it's just super out of date, unfortunately. And legislative like statutes and like judicial opinions have severely restricted the very limited rights that they were given in the first place. So that's kind of why I want to go into that field, of just to kind of revitalize the area. But like I said, I'm very open to everything else. I think part of it is that I also really like constitutional law. Unfortunately, there's not like a constitutional law firm. It's just kind of a background you can have. But constitutional rights bleed into very much workers' rights. So I think that will be a good match.
You're talking about your dad and the union. Is that what drew you to wanting to be a lawyer? Because I could see that you speak very well and you speak very fluently about things you care about, which is obviously an essential part of being a lawyer. Yeah. So it feels very natural.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think, well, first of all, I am like never on camera, so I'm a little nervous.
Oh, don't worry.
I, you know, as much as I said when I was 5 years old and proclaimed lawyer that I didn't know what I wanted to do, I think in the back of my mind somehow I always knew that I wanted to like give back to my dad. First of all, I want to say I have a really great mom. I'm like only talking about my dad. My mother has been vital and crucial in me like going down this path, and she isn't a lawyer, but she works with lawyers. They've given me a lot of guidance. Like my mother is super instrumental in all of this. I don't want her to listen to this and think, oh, I mean nothing. But she's in the consulting business, so that's not unions.
So she could use one. That's what you're saying?
She might. They might. But I will say yes. I definitely think over the years, just like I've gotten more involved with the union over the years, it's been just like a driving force. I think something that draws me to that field is I think a lot of people go into the law with grand ideas and like big dreams, and those are great for those people. Like I really think like a ton of my classmates and my peers are going to be super successful and make a huge difference in the world because they're so driven, and we need people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't really think I'm that person. I think I'm more of a local community type of person to give back in smaller ways. And I just know that, so like my dad personally has had 2 workers' compensation cases. He got hurt on the job twice, and he had a really great lawyer who, and it severely impacted our family with health insurance and financial issues and things like that. And his lawyer was super great and like got him back on track as fast as he could, like, you know, the whole 9 yards, took care of everything without it like affecting us as a family. And working at my firm, who does workers' compensation, we actually recently wrapped up someone's case who was very similar to my family structure of like, it was the father who got hurt and the whole 9 yards, 2 kids, like things like that. And when I was actually able to give him his settlement check, his final check from us, and the pure just like gratitude, and he was just like, thank you guys so much, like you really like saved the day, like my family's gonna be okay. Just knowing that I helped that one guy in the small way that I was as a law clerk, like I'm not even a lawyer yet, the small amount of things I did for his case made me feel so like satisfied and accomplished in my own right. And that's what all these unions are. It's just a ton of guys and women. I don't mean it just men. There's a ton of women, but a ton of people who are just trying to do what's best for their family. And it's unfortunate that, you know, they get hurt on the job, or their contract comes up for renegotiation and their employer is trying to outsource the job or limit some of the benefits that they get. So I would love to just be an advocate for them.
Yeah, civil service can bring so much gratitude doing that. And it's very interesting how you really stood on business, saying when you're in the 5th grade that you want to be a lawyer going against the grain, and now here doing all these incredible things and building these skills. That's really, really telling. And do you think you'll be like, what's the word, like delegating in front of like courtrooms and things like that? Like, will you be that kind of lawyer?
So that type of lawyer is a litigator. That's all that means. Like I said, in high school, I did mock trial, and the way that it was run in high school was it was through the Middlesex County Bar Association. So we had real judges like presiding over the mock cases we were putting on. Like I was at the Middlesex County Courthouse. I was an attorney for 3 years in those cases, you know, able to really argue in front of a courtroom, and I loved it. I really did. It kind of like ignited a fire in me almost that I didn't know existed. I think that in practicality, unfortunately, like over 90% of cases settle these days. It's very, very rare that cases go to trial. I think my law firm, there's 3 attorneys. I think they each go to trial once or twice a year. I think at some part of my career, I would like to be a litigator. I don't know if that's going to happen right off the bat, but I guess a little like end goal in my career, I would like to be a judge at some point, and to be a judge, you would have needed to be a litigator, so it's going to have to happen. But I think that from what I've experienced with people I've worked for, that litigating is extremely time consuming and it burns you out quick. It really does. So I don't know if that'd be the best thing for me to begin my career with. I think I would kind of want to get my feet wet and get some experience and then see what happens. But I am passionate enough to want to advocate for things like that. I think something that would be interesting, actually, I was kind of looking into it recently. It's funny you brought this up. Would be to do some kind of work. So I mentioned the NLRA, the National Labor Relations Act, is like the governing body of law for workers' rights. So the people who preside over the NLRA is the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board. And they have a lot of positions, and they do more of the statutorial, I'll say. They're the ones, you know, editing and interpreting the law. and doing that sort of advocacy. So that could be interesting. And there's a ton of just like the AFL-CIO is the these acronyms.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of them, and they're long.
It's I don't even, unfortunately, can't recall what it stands for, but it's just America's largest umbrella union. And they also do a lot of advocacy. So that's another organization that I can kind of go towards. Please don't be upset that I don't remember what it stands for.
I think they'll forgive you. And yeah, you wanting to be a judge, I can see that. I could see Judge Gianna.
Oh, thank you so much.
And litigating, yeah. It does look sick on Law and Order. I object. Like that looks like fun.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the media around law that has been produced is fictitious and dramatized.
Like Ted 2.
But I have to say, I think Legally Blonde is the most accurate depiction of the law that I have seen so far. I actually recently rewatched it, and I said, wow, that's my exact law school experience.
Please explain why. I would love to hear it.
So, first of all, I just think it's a super fun movie. I think they did a really good job. I'm a big fan. Pretty cliche of every law student. But if we just kind of zoom out a little bit, she is a super diverse individual who is pursuing something that doesn't seem like it's going to match her. So she's coming into the law with like a super unique background and she's super passionate about something. And I think it's accurate for law students, especially first year students, in the sense of like you see her struggle to kind of transition with all of her peers and to a legal education. Like, I think the classroom scenes are super, super accurate with, like, how professors teach and the cold calling and just, like, that pressure you feel. I think that's something that I didn't expect going into law school. Like, I totally understood that I was going to be putting in long hours and I was going to get a lot of homework and readings and things like that. But the way that class is conducted is just another level of pressure and stress that, like, adds to your everyday, unfortunately. Like, professors come into class and they kind of just sit down and they go, all right, class, so I'm going to make this up. You had to read Smith versus Smith. Okay. First student, tell me about the parties. Okay, next student, tell me about the issue. Like, professors, like, don't teach. Like, you kind of are teaching the class and you just feel that pressure from your classmates that no one obviously wants to make a mistake or be wrong or not know the answer. So I think that's very well depicted in Legally Blonde. But I also like at the end that she is successful and gives me hope that I'm going to get through law school.
Yeah, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Do you mind elaborating more on like the intensity of law school?
Yeah. No, I've just kind of been talking about it with a lot of people recently. It's just funny that these have been common conversations I've had. I am not trying to knock law school at all. Like I said at the beginning, I'm super grateful for this opportunity. Like, there's a lot of people that are currently working towards it or, like, have not been successful but getting in the first place. So, like I said, super grateful to be here. I did work hard, but, whatever. So this is my experience so far has just been, it's just a big change. I think I do a lot of things. Like I said, I currently work 3 jobs and I'm a part of a Greek organization, and I do have friends that I would like to see sometimes on the weekends. But I have class Monday through Thursday. I have class pretty much every day from like 9 to 3, just about. But I'm getting to campus at like 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and I'm doing work all the way up until class. And then in between class breaks, I'm doing homework. And then I come home from class and I do homework until like midnight. And maybe I eat dinner and take a shower. And then somehow I fit in going to work as well. And it's just been super tough balancing all of that. It's just a way different balance than what I had in undergrad. I feel like in a sense that there's this like pressure to like give up your life to law school. Like even today, I had an hour break between my classes, and in that hour break there was a training for this online database we use called Westlaw, and I was one of like the few people who didn't go because I was like, I really would just like to eat lunch right now and take a break. I mean, I didn't go because I got my Westlaw certifications in undergrad anyway. Like I didn't really need to go, but that's just like the kind of thing of like, I feel like I'm always supposed to be doing more. Like every day my professors come into class and they're like, okay, if you're not studying for finals, like you're not going to do well. Like you should be studying for finals already. You should have been studying for finals last year, actually. So I really just think it's a change. I totally understand why law school is structured like this, because to have a successful legal career, you have to learn this type of balance. Like you are inundated with work in that sense. The stakes are way higher once you get out into the real field. But yeah,
yeah, I thought my schedule was rigorous, and then I hear yours. It's a grind. And to ask you something maybe very difficult to answer, like, do you think a law career like that is worth it? Like, do you think that grind is worth it?
I'm gonna say yes. Like I said at the beginning, I see it as a means to an end. I really am passionate about why I went into the law and why I want to stay here. But I will say different areas of the law are more intensive than others. Like if you are like a criminal defense attorney, if you're a public defender, you are grinding like that. You are handling hundreds of clients yourself. And it's super like a tough topic area. Like you're dealing with murder, rape, issues with children, things like that's super hard to digest every single day on top of like your caseload and everything, versus, I mean, it's what they call it, like people who work in like personal injury, they're called ambulance chasers. Like it's kind of your bread and butter type of law that you don't necessarily have to be working those crazy hours. Like you could put in a 9 to 5, you could put in a 9 to 4, you can, switch up. You have a lot more flexibility. So I think it depends what you want to do. And it also depends what type of firm you want to go into. Because if you're going into like a smaller firm and you're not a partner, you might not be putting in that much of a grind. But if you're going into like big law, like if you go to New York City and you join a big corporate law firm, like you have to document what you are doing every single hour. Like you have hours you have to meet weekly, monthly, and it's way more intensive there. So I mean, maybe I'm taking the easy way out. I think that the field I want to go into isn't as hour intensive, but who knows where I'll end up.
Yeah, because I know just firsthand your passion for this. So I did not mean to put you on the spot there.
No, that's okay.
I just thought it was very interesting, like knowing how difficult that schedule is, and like.
Yeah, I think, and we actually kind of had like, they call it foundations in law school. It's just you meet once a month with like different people in different sections. You kind of talk about how law school's going so far. It seemed like from the outside, we just had the class like last week. So like for the first month, I kind of I felt like everyone else was taking it on so easily, like really enjoying what's happening. Like it's not that I do enjoy my coursework. Like I enjoy what I'm learning about. It feels very practical to me finally, instead of me taking biology that I'll never use. Like, wow, I'm actually going to be applying this in a couple of years. But I feel like everyone was kind of handling it a little bit better than I was. But after having that class, it feels like we're all kind of in this same boat of transition. And I think something that just adds to the pressure of it is attention span. Like, it's one thing that I have this much work to do, but I feel like I just never turn my brain off. Like, I truly am like, if I get to campus at 6, from 6 to 9 when my first class starts, my hands don't come off the keyboard. Like, you are focused for 3 hours, 3, 4, 5 hours plus. Like, that's something I've never done before. Like, yeah, maybe I've had 40 pages of reading for a class, but I didn't have to lock in for 6 hours. Like, that's just, it's hard. I mean, other graduate courses I bet experience that, but something for like an undergraduate level, I don't think any undergraduate major or area can compare to like that sort of mental toughness, I guess I'll call it. Like that's something that I was like, wow, this is crazy.
I commend you on so many levels, because I in a lot of ways struggle with the same thing, kind of constantly working. Do you struggle sleeping as well? Like, does your mind constantly go and you can't sleep?
Oh yeah. I don't think my brain ever turns off. I feel really bad for her. She needs a break.
Yeah.
She needs a little vacation. I feel like, yeah, like when I'm going to bed, when I'm trying to fall asleep, I'm like making my to-do list in my head for the next day. I really just try to, I truly just try to like clear my head. I just try to empty it, and I'm just like, you're in bed right now. Like, you can't do your torts reading. You, like, the best thing I can do for tomorrow is go to sleep right now. But it's something I truly, like, I have to tell myself every single night to, like, let go of what's happening.
Yeah, I can very much sense that, because I do the same exact thing where it's like you're prioritizing, like, wanting to do the things you want to do now instead of, like,
and it's just, like, something else that I'm trying to work on. And, again, like, I'm happy that we had this foundations class and I was able to talk to my other classmates that we're all kind of feeling the same thing, is that obviously I have to shower, obviously I have to eat dinner. But you feel guilty not doing your work. I think that's something else that I've never experienced, is that any ounce of like free time I get or I give myself, because you need to take a break sometimes, I feel so guilty. I'm like, well, now I just put myself behind 2 weeks because I had to eat dinner tonight. Or even just like you can't work 25/8. You cannot work 24/7. I think something that I try to do so far is like have one thing a week that I get to look forward to, like on the weekends, whether it's going to see a movie, going to dinner with my roommates, cooking at home with my roommates, just like one night, right? But I feel so guilty doing that. It's just, and I can't, like, it's something I have to get over. I actually will say, before I started law school, I mentioned that my mom works with attorneys. One of them, her name is Anna Hadjico. I've, done some internships with her. She's been really great as a mentor to me. And her parting words to me for law school was just like, you're always going to feel behind. You're always going to be behind. There's always going to be that urge that you can do more. And unfortunately, you have to live your life. Like, I don't want to give up my life to law school. And I don't think you should. But I think that that's what the trick of staying in law school is, finding that balance.
Yeah, the trick of life really is finding that balance. And of course, you represent workers and workers' rights, and that's something that we all have to find. And I'm curious, like, why do you feel guilty if you don't do work? Do you feel like you're hurting yourself or potential people you could help?
I honestly think I'm like hurting my future self. It's just that I know it's like, well, if my roommates and I went to dinner for 2 hours, it's like, well, now I'm going to have to be up an extra 2 hours, whatever night next week. Like, and then I'm just going to be losing sleep. Like, haven't been sleeping too much. I did walk in here with a Celsius.
Oh, don't worry. I fiend for those things. Those things keep me awake.
Yeah, I will take a Celsius sponsorship if they're watching.
Oh, please. They should sponsor me. How much I buy their product.
The podcast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I feel guilty about. I'm just like, well, now I'm going to lose 2 hours of sleep tomorrow night. Because I'm someone who, I always had this work ethic of, like, school is, like, I went to Catholic school my whole life. That was a sacrifice on my parents' part to, like, send my brother and I through Catholic school. And to come to college, my parents were like, well, if you want to go where you want to go, you're going to need a good scholarship. And, like, I worked really hard for that. And I always took in my mind, like, my only job right now is to be a student, so I'm going to be the best student that I can be for me. I'm not a comparative person by any means. It's more of, like, personal satisfaction and, like, parental satisfaction, I guess, like, gratitude almost in a sense. So my point being is that I've always put schoolwork, honestly, before myself in a sense, so I think that's where the guilt might come from, is, like, I really will get an hour or 2 hours of sleep because I need to get my work done for class, or I need to submit something that I want to be at my standard. Like, I bet if I cut half the time, I could get it done, but it wouldn't be up to my standard for myself.
Yeah, it's like the age-old work-life balance.
I think
like,
it's a myth.
You think it's a myth?
I think it's a myth.
Yeah, maybe. Can you go into that a little bit?
I just think that life is so unpredictable. I honestly have been experiencing it the last 2 weeks. I think I said it today that like every time I feel like I finally get back on track, this track that I made for myself, this plan of things I need to get done, that something out of my control always just comes to knock it off. And that's just life. Like as I get older and as all of us get older and enter the world more and become more serious adults, I guess I'll say, just things get more intense. Like now you're starting to have families and more people who like depend on you. So there is no work-life balance. Like once, even if you somehow strike a balance, something's going to come and knock it out of whack. I think the key is like learning to accept that you're going to get thrown off track, like to not get upset by changes or unforeseen circumstances, and then to be able to bounce back from them.
Being an adult is terrifying. That's.
I don't think it's terrifying. I'm very excited. I was that kid that like always wanted to grow up. Like I grew up watching my mom come back from working in the city and watch her take off her trench coat, drop her suitcase, take off her heels, and I'm like, I can't wait to wear business casual. And everyone my whole life was like, don't wish growing up. Like it's gonna go by so fast. I think I thoroughly enjoyed my childhood and my teenage years, and I'm very excited to like get into my career. I kind of feel like I wish I could just skip law school. I feel like I have a good amount of practical knowledge. Like I've been working at Delia Galili de Palma for 3 years. I interned at Monarch Law. They're in Milford in Berlin. Shout out to them too. They were really, really great mentors, and I had a really great experience there. They did employment law and real estate. I learned I didn't like real estate, but not because of them. But yeah, I feel like right now I kind of just want to get into practice. I feel like I'm just so like anxious to like get into the work of it. I feel like law school, and I think it's just, you know, what happens when you're a first year is that you have to get all your foundational classes. Like I have absolutely no choice in making my schedule this semester or next semester. Like I understand you have to get your basic classes out of the way, but all of it is so theoretical. It's all so theoretical and like doctrinal, and it's not practical at all. Like every day in class, they're like, hypothetically, in a perfect world with a perfect plaintiff and a perfect defendant, and it's like, well, that's just not what happens in reality. So like I said, I think that's part of it too, is I feel like I'm ready to just get thrown into the workforce, and I'm just like in limbo for 3 years.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make about like the gray areas of law too, because it's very complex in a lot of ways. I know you won't be defending criminals, but I feel like that's where things get very murky morally too.
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, I did mention I went to Catholic school my whole life. You can't look at the law morally at all, so I'm going to start with that, so putting that aside. But the law itself, every area of law, I know you mentioned criminal law, but every area of law, every statute, every case holding, it's all ambiguous. Like, when I was a kid, I remember this, I always liked things black or white. I had so many teachers like tell my parents at parent-teacher conferences that Gianna is a black and white type of person, like a yes or no. And the law is gray. It's a gray area, all of it. And I didn't like accept that until high school when I started doing mock trial and getting some practical experience in it. And I've come to love the gray area, honestly. Like I used to hate getting an answer wrong. Like, you know, growing up, all of education is you either get the right or the wrong answer. But what I've come to love about law is that it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It's if you can argue it well.
I was going to say, it's like you make the truth.
Yeah, kind of.
If you can argue it well enough.
Exactly. So, and that's with every area. Yeah, it's more prominent in the criminal area, I will say. But you can have regulations and family law and real estate and contracts, like how things are read. And it's all about just making a good argument for it.
Would you say you were always an argumentative person? I feel like you gotta be.
No, I really wasn't. That's so funny you said that, because growing up, that's like the first thing anyone asks me is like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? A lawyer. Oh, you must like to argue. No, I hate arguing. I will say I'm very good in conflict resolution areas. Like, I don't shy away from confrontation, but I'm not a confrontational person by any means. Like, I won't start a problem, but I'll finish it, I'll say.
That's tough. That's tough. Like, I know to contrast this, like, sports personalities, you know how like on ESPN they're like barking back at each other. Like, I know a friend who wants to do that. He's very argumentative. Yeah. And that's like being a lawyer in a sense.
I think what upsets me when people assume argumentative, I think, is that a lot of times to me argumentative is just like speaking your opinion without trying to see the other person's side of it, right? Or it's not necessarily based in facts. I think that I am very much an advocate in the sense of what I enjoy about the law is the research part of it and like finding your argument in the gray area, and then once you have a factual basis to go on, to advocate for someone else. So like I definitely, like I said, I do have a mock trial experience, and I was making opening and closing statements. I was arguing to a legitimate judge. I was doing cross-examinations, direct examinations, objections, the whole 9 yards, but I was able to do that because it was all founded in fact.
So you like debating, so to speak, like creating.
Okay. That's a different way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, because like debating, like you said, like kind of forming an argument based upon the facts, based upon preparation and research.
I think that I just don't want to agree with you because I just don't like the sound of my own voice.
You don't.
I'm like, so, I don't really think I don't want to listen to myself. I don't know why someone else would want to listen to me, so I don't know who's going to watch the podcast.
I've been enjoying listening to you.
I appreciate that.
And maybe you can write up a dissertation as to why I'm wrong, and I would probably lose. But yeah, that's very fascinating. I wish more people kind of did that in regards to like crafting argue or debates based on issues, because a lot of people kind of talk about things they don't really know much about.
Yep. No, I agree. And without going further into it, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah, I think that's something that's a skill that's lost nowadays, unfortunately, that I'm very much a proponent of is I feel like so many people, and this is what I also think when I think argumentative, is like people are just sitting there, okay, when is it my turn to speak? When it's my turn, I'm going to say this. Like, I can't wait to say this. I can't wait to prove them wrong on this. But you're not actually listening to what the other person has to say. There's a, like, active listening. I think that's a skill that, I mean, I'm always trying to improve skills. I don't think it's something I've mastered, but it's something that I've really tried to focus on the last few years. And it's just, and that's what lawyering is. Like, you need to truly understand and listen and see where the other side is coming from so you can make a successful argument on your client's side of things. Because if I'm just here advocating for my client, not even looking at what the other side has done, like, you can't do that. It has to be, there has to be some sort of collaboration there. So
yeah, that's very true, especially as I do this. Like, I have no journalism background, so of course I'm talking to people and listening to them, and there's such a skill in that, especially as I want to continue doing this like after I'm at school.
Yeah.
To like apply more value to this show would be to like get better at interviewing, and that's something I'm trying to pick up, and I see the correlation with being a lawyer in that sense.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
Yeah. And I know these were some kind of heavy topics, but I'd like to get into some like interesting personal ones. Like, what are some things people might not know about you, like fun facts?
Oh, wow. So that's like literally on my bucket list of like have a really good fun fact, because I feel like I never have a good fun fact. Well, my go-to fun fact is that I was once hypnotized. I think that's kind of silly. It was in high school at this like leadership convention, and it was like the entertainment for the night, and I got picked. I didn't do anything crazy. I will say it worked, but I didn't do anything crazy. I just like felt really cold and thought I was driving a car. So there's videos of that somewhere. So that was kind of fun. That's my fun fact. I think something about me is that I write everything down, I guess. My like notes app on my phone is a very dangerous place.
Oh, so is mine. Trust me.
It probably has my passwords to everything. Maybe my social security number.
Let's find out.
Yeah. But I just keep a list of a lot of random things that I like to look back on. Like my bucket list is on there. I keep a list of things that I hate. I think that's kind of silly. I feel like a lot of people, when you're trying to get to know someone, is, oh, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite this? What's your favorite that? And I think something that I like to ask people, actually, when I first meet them is, what's, like, one thing you hate? Because it's a very strong word. And I don't hate a lot of things, but, like, something I do hate, I'll share, is I hate bumper stickers. Particularly the ones that say, like, baby on board. And no disrespect to the baby. Like, I hope the baby lives a really great life. But I'm just like, dude, that sticker's, like, not going to stop someone from rear-ending you. I'm sorry. I don't know. I just don't like bumper stickers.
That's interesting. It makes you want to hear about more things that you hate.
Truly, it's a whole list. I don't really try to hold on to anger. I think that's why I write it down. I don't really remember a lot of them. I don't like lawnmowers, and I'm going to blame Quinnipiac for that because I used to live in Irma freshman year.
Oh, yeah.
And every day, guys, your tuition is going to mowing the lawn, okay? Every day we mow the lawn.
As you wear a Quinnipiac, so
yeah, and I think the campus looks great, I'll say that, but it just kept me up every day. So I don't like lawnmowers for that reason.
The sprinklers at night, I don't like those because it's like an obstacle course. It's like playing Wipeout trying to avoid getting sprayed by them.
Walking back from my, like, 9 o'clock class, agreed.
It's like...
And then I have to go back wet.
Exactly. It's such, like, low aura, me standing there trying to, like, bob and weave through them.
And then, like, people from afar can't see the sprinkler, and they're like, what is that kid doing? Like, is he okay?
Like, I remember I was on my way to a meeting, and I wasn't looking, and I got, like, right in the face with it, so I had to walk in with my hair all wet. It was, like I said, it was, like, negative 1,800 aura in that moment. But that's...
so I keep lists of a lot of things. I can't, what others, I keep a list of, like, practical things, like probably my ShopRite grocery list is on there, but just, like, fun things that this is a really big thing. Like, in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and I'll think I had just, like, a genius idea that I was just divinely inspired, and I will write it down. So I like to look, I forget about it, though, so, like, days later, I'm in my notes, and I'm like, what does this mean? Like, the title of it will be, like, next bestseller novel, and it's just an incoherent idea.
It's smart, though, because you never know when you'll strike gold.
Yeah.
Right, with something you write down.
I actually think a lot of, I took intro to fiction writing with Ken Cormier, I think that was his name, the professor. I took it a while ago. And I have to say, I think every story I wrote was based off of something I had in my notes that I was just like, I could work with that. And it's just, I don't know, it's fun to laugh with people about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's what comes into your mind.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And then those are some interesting, fun facts. Maybe one day we can dive further into your notes app.
Yeah, we could just do a podcast on my notes app.
And I also like to ask you, like, what are some of your hopes and dreams professionally or in general?
I'm going to give a super basic answer that I just really want to be happy and have peace. I think that's something I say every day. I'm like, I just want peace right now. Like, I think happiness can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. I think a lot of people define, and I used to too, like when I was a kid, it was like, oh, I wanted to be super successful in whatever I did, or want to be financially independent, which are still things that I hope for and aspire for. But life is so short, and, like, honestly, my grandmother told me this almost every day of her life. She's like, you just want to be happy. Like, you don't want to have regrets in your life. Like, I can really say I go to bed every day worry free in a sense. Like, I'm not thinking about things that I've done. I'm very at peace with everything I've done so far. Like, I don't have things that weigh on me, and I really feel for people who kind of have things that weigh on them. So that's why I say I think I just want to be happy and have some peace.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being happy. That's what I always tell people when I ask them this question. And I really like what you said, because I've always felt the same, that happiness means something different to everyone. Someone's job might make them happy, but somebody else's family might make them happy.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all just trying to be.
Yeah, I feel like people lose that part of it. like you said, like people think, oh, well, I just want to be so successful in my job, or I just want to do what's best for my family or whatever. And it's like, well, people get lost in the, like, especially like the career I'm going into, it's like people get lost in the grind of everything. And it's like something that I've really tried to, I talked about it the whole show, this adjustment period into law school. I think something I've recently tried to do is just like one thing a day that I know is going to make me happy, whether it's like going out for ice cream at night with my roommates to look forward to, or I love Intramural so much, like going to my Intramural shift, or just taking a half hour to like watch an episode of a show that's like, all right, I'm going to do one thing today that put a smile on my face or made me happy. Because it's tough when you're going through day after day and you feel like you're really unhappy. I think that's the worst feeling.
That's very telling based upon what you're doing in law, which is so rigorous, but there kind of is like I said, like a light at the end of the tunnel where it'll all work out. And moving onwards, I know you said you don't like basic questions when getting to know someone. Well, here's the most basic question of all. What are some of your favorite movies?
That's okay. I don't think it's not that I don't like them. I just don't necessarily have good answers for them. And I feel like asking someone like, what do you hate, is just a really good conversation starter.
It is more interesting.
I would recommend it for your next podcast guest.
What do you hate?
Because it puts people on pause. It's like, what do I hate? Because, you could dislike a lot of things, but to hate, like, I hate bumper stickers. I'm sorry. I have a sparkly license plate on my car, but not a bumper sticker.
There's exceptions.
Yeah. Okay, but favorite movie. I am not into Disney like this. No hate on people who are. I just don't want to misrepresent myself. That I don't know too much about Disney, but my favorite movie I'm going to say is Hercules. Yeah, I think it was just a childhood favorite of mine. Like I remember I had like the DVD, like the VHS, the big block tape of Hercules that my mom would have to like rewind like however long the movie is, every hour and a half, because I would just keep putting it on. So I think it's just like a comfort movie.
Interesting. Do you have any others that you would say? See, I typically ask film students this question, so they have like a boatload.
I'm gonna like so embarrass myself because I have a very, very limited and poor movie watch list, I guess I'll say. With the very limited free time I had, and I was super involved all my life, like high school, middle school, everything. So I've never really had a lot of free time. I just like to rewatch my favorites, so I have not really experienced a lot of movies. So point being is that I end up watching a lot of like rom-coms because they make me laugh, and I just want to laugh in those times. So I'll say I love La La Land.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
I think that
I
did a good job.
Yeah.
It won an Oscar for a reason. It won more than one Oscar for a reason. It's a good movie. What else? Burlesque is a lot of fun. It's a little R-rated, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. But
don't worry
it's
about
fun. That's a fun movie. What else do A Walk to Remember. Again, I said these are all chick flicks, but don't knock them till you watch them. I think that movie, every cliche came from A Walk to Remember, but they just did it the best. They just did it the best.
It's not a cliche if you have a collection of cliches. That's I'm paraphrasing that from someone else who said it, but that's something I strongly believe.
Yeah, guys, I wish I had seen more high class and respectable movies. But like I said, I really just end up rewatching the same movies because I know I'm going to enjoy them.
It's better to be high class and respectable in real life than to just know high class and respectable movies. And that really speaks to just how incredible this episode's been, Gianna. I'd like to thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. This was so fun. I think my nerves dissipated through it.
I'm glad. That's what I was searching for. And is there anything you would like to add before we leave here?
I don't know. What do people usually say?
You can leave us with some motivational statement. You could say thank you. You could do whatever you could do.
You're like, you could thank me. It's my show. Well, yes. First of all, thank you so much for reaching out. I was so happy to get this email to invite me on. It was so surprising. Thank you to our producer and
Yeah,
who's
Jeff.
helping us in the back.
Yeah.
Truly, this was so much fun. Like, I love trying new things on campus. But what I will leave the audience with then is one of my favorite quotes, and it's that you have not experienced all your happiest days. So it kind of gets me going of just like, well, maybe today I'll have the happiest day yet, or have the best day yet. Yeah.
The best days are yet to come.
Yeah, along those lines.
And listening to you was incredible. I couldn't be more impressed with the things you're doing.
Thank you.
with your ability to juggle law school and life and all the interesting conversations. Like, this is one of the most interesting conversations I've had on here, because it struck so many different levels from working and kind of what it means to be on your path. And just thank you for being here to kind of have this discourse. And it was just so great getting to know so much about you, because we were kind of just in a class together, and now
yeah, on medieval literature.
The stuff we live for. And now, yeah, getting to know you in this way. I feel like I've known you for a while now after this conversation, so thank you so much for having it. And as always, this is Ryan Zicast with the Zicast, where everyone has a story, signing off. Thank you so much for watching.